Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Rubbin is Racing podcast. It's myself, it's Spider, it's Quigs, it's Moon, it's Jacob. It takes a village. And this episode is brought to you by Body Armor Flash IV. I have a little bit of it right in front of me, the grape flavored. Body Armor Flash IV is packed with electrolytes and provides faster and longer lasting hydration with no artificial flavors, sweeteners, or dyes. Great tasting flavors. Strawberry kiwi, tropical punch. It gives your body the rehydration it needs to recover. I'm just getting over a sickness. I apologize about how shitty I sounded last week, to be quite honest with you, but I'm feeling much better, in part to Body Armor Flash IV. Get yours at your local 7-Eleven or on Amazon today. Guys, we're back. Las Vegas seemed like it was good for some, not so good for others. Very good for us. How you guys feeling? What's going on?
Pumped, man. Pumped to be back. Another great race. Exciting, very unique, I guess, like long shot winner. And it typically is not a track you would expect to see that at. Josh Berry, the first driver who's ever made his first cup win at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. You know, it's not a track like Daytona that just breeds first time winners or maybe long shot winners. So very impressed and happy and satisfied with the way that this race went. Also, I thought it was very timely given our discussion from last week when I asked which driver that races full time who hasn't won yet will win first. And I think you guys nailed it. So congrats
made
to
a little money off it.
Put money where my mouth Quiggs on the show. He gave out Josh Berry top Ford 20-1. He ended up taking it 10-1.
I got it at 10-1,
but still a winner.
Still great.
I mean, that sounds fucking really good when I took Larson 4-1. So, yeah, not great for me, but congrats to Quiggs. Also, large, we got this March Madness.
I was going to say, not great for you. It's nothing compared to how we got fucked the other day on this March Madness thing. But before I even start with that, we do have Josh Berry. We have Josh Berry. He's not breaking him right now, but in a couple of minutes, we're going to sit down with Josh Berry. Going to go 3 wide with him. But Spider, we got hosed.
Tough, man.
The people from Experian are nice enough to come in and do this bracket busters thing with Barstool, and the names get picked out of a hat on which one you're going to choose. It's got to be a 9 seed or higher, lower, higher. And Spider and I, out of I don't know how many teams, I guess I could do the math on it and figure it out.
32.
Yeah. So there are 32 teams. We picked 31st. We were the second to last team. So we got saddled with Alabama State, who looked great against St. Francis, but they're a 32.5 point dog to Auburn in the first round in the NCAAs. So Spider and I are not that close to the $40,000 prize money they have for this bracket busters thing. And you were up all night, Spider. You were in the lab figuring out permutations and combinations of if somebody goes first, this is where we go, all the way down. And when they didn't call us, maybe after the 10th or 15th, you just said, "Large, I got nothing."
Yeah, we were dog. I will say I hate to complain. I'm not trying to complain. I'm very fortunate to have a seat at the table and the opportunity for $40,000 courtesy of Experian. But the reality of the situation is it's going to take a fucking miracle. So yeah, something to watch for. And if you guys are watching at home in this college basketball tournament, just do us a solid and pull for Alabama State. Let's shock the world. Let's get those Hornets into the Elite Eight, maybe.
At least for the first 5 minutes of the game while it's competitive.
Just take them plus 32.5. And even if they lose by like 25, we'll still cash. But I can't buy a winner, Large.
They are, I think you can see Auburn from Alabama State. I think, my son goes to Alabama and Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Auburn, Iron Bowl, like all that shit. I think Alabama State is more towards Montgomery, so it's within 30 minutes of Auburn. So it is a cool game to be involved with, but we're just on the absolute wrong side of the equation. I think 32.5 is the longest odds on the board for the first round, and that's Spider.
Auburn's so good.
Yeah.
And they're also not a team that gets upset. They're like so old and
we need Janai Broom to get like suspended or fail a drug test or arrested or
way
something.
More than that.
Yeah.
We need like a food poisoning thing more. So.
COVID-20 needs to start ravaging through the Auburn locker room.
Headlines: Journal de Quebec reporting NASCAR heading to Canada in 26 and 27, replacing the Chicago street race. I didn't think that was going to happen. Right now that it's the Gulf of America and Canada has become the 51st state officially starting next week or wherever we are right now. Do you think that was Do you think when NASCAR is planning this stuff, like going to Mexico in the current political climate, going to Canada during, tariffs and trade embargoes and stuff, can that possibly fuck all of this stuff up? Is NASCAR taking all this into consideration? Because that seems to be two places where we currently have smoke on the international forum right now. How do you guys feel about Canada now that Canada hates us?
Honestly, and I'm not big into politics aside
Sure.
from just making fun of Quigs, but
Mhm.
I feel as though like Canada is a safer bet. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Canada originally was the one that NASCAR tried to make happen first, but they got the kibosh put on there by Formula One. So I love that they're still interested in trying to make that work. Um, and I would love to be there myself. I've been to Toronto, but never to Quebec or Montreal. So um, I would love to see this come to fruition. And I'm of the opinion it's probably not like danger wise, but in terms of like accessibility and logistically easier in Canada than it would be in Mexico.
Yeah.
Would you join forces with the Canadian protesters, Quigs, with your guys down here if that race was to go off,
Uh,
like from a liberal standpoint?
Well, of course I would, but
Of course.
no, sports are the great uniter. I think you go to the track and nobody cares at all about the politics. I think everybody would love it,
Okay.
and it's just Canada. What are they gonna do?
Moonhead, what's your take on this?
The track, I've always loved the track, so I'm rooting for it, and I'm with Spider. I think logistically, even with all like the political bullshit going on, I feel like they'll make it happen because I think it benefits both sides. It probably, I'm sure it's a great for the local people up there in Canada, bringing a sizable event into town, and then obviously it's great for us because it's a cool racetrack. So I think if one were to not go off, I know there were the rumors about the Mexico one. I think it would still probably be more likely just because I feel like there's a lot more like safety hurdles they have to go through getting the cars down there, whereas here they can just drive them right up.
Yeah, and I'll defer to Christopher Bell on last week's episode, and we appreciate Christopher for coming on. But I asked him, if aside from Mexico City, what international efforts would you like to see NASCAR capitalize on? And he said Canada. Now he said most sport track Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Ontario, but I think Canada is a great market for NASCAR, and it makes sense. So I would welcome this with open arms.
Denny Hamlin's P25 finish in Las Vegas does not tell the story. He pulled $300 slots. $300 slots. I mean, I've had a couple of $100 slots where I felt like, what am I fucking doing? He's pulling $300 pull slots, and it looks like collectively he won over $300,000. That's a very Denny thing to do, isn't it? Like just to have it on, on social media. I don't know who else that fits except for the Vegas guys like Gragson or like maybe one of those. But for Denny, that's like the chef's kiss for like to see that. How do we feel about Denny? How about the rich getting richer? I hear
I was just
NASCAR
gonna
suing
say,
him for half of it. But go ahead.
yeah, I mean, it's very on brand for Denny. I feel like he's one to get in on the fun festivities of whatever surrounding city they're in, and Vegas, seems to have a lot of entertainment to offer. So it doesn't surprise me that he was out there ripping slots. Now 300 a pull
Yeah.
leads me to believe that he was, in a great financial spot and aware of the news that we're going to get into here in just a minute.
Uh-huh.
But I also got to say I loved his outfit. He was wearing like I was going to say like a Bill Cosby sweater. I could probably do better than that, but he was
Not,
wearing a very eccentric outfit on the casino floor, and he looked like he was living his best life. So, congratulations to Denny Hamlin, and maybe break the boys off some.
yeah, a little bit, right?
Yeah, give us
Yeah,
some money.
Something for
yeah.
the
We're not going to win Experian Bracket Busters, Denny. So maybe you can just slide us each 20 bands, and we'll root for you and indefinitely.
Yeah, man, I'd throw it right on the 32 and a half. And then the bigger news for Denny, Progressive signed on for 18 races. We'll remind everybody again, Joe Gibbs Racing doesn't have that business to business deal like a Penske or even a Hendrick has. So this is just a pure advertising deal for them. And so to have a big name like Progressive come in and to have a big name make the commitment for a half of a Cup Series season at the highest level is a big number. So congratulations for him. And it's great for the sport to see that happen after we've seen, high profile names like FedEx or M&M's or something leave the sport is big, right, guys?
Yeah, I think it's massive. Anytime you can get a sponsor in for 50% of the races, that's got to feel good. Not only as a driver to have the support, but as a team that's got to put all these cars together and remain competitive. So I'm sure Joe Gibbs and the team are pumped to have their support, and it really seemed that way based on the announcement. It seemed like all of NASCAR and social media knew that this was coming, but yet Joe Gibbs' team still did like a 30-minute kind of like unveiling where they had Joe Gibbs speak, they had a couple team members speak, they had Denny unveil the scheme, and they really did a good job. Now, that being said, this was not the coolest sponsorship deal of the week that I saw.
What was
Just
it?
hours before we started recording, our good friend Riley Herbst got the Lucy sponsorship. Now, this is not an ad, this is straight from the heart. But if you watched our Daytona vlog, I gave Riley his first ever Lucy. I gave him a Lucy, and then now they're on the side of his car. So, yeah, like I said, Denny, run us our check.
Exactly it. But
Yep.
like people like Lucy, right? And again, they're one of they're the official what are we called? Nicotine packets?
Nicotine pouch. Yep.
Pouches, yeah, of Barstool. That's what we have here. So it's nice to see them on board too with the car. But I had read that FS1 got just over 3 million views for Sunday's Pennzoil 400 at Vegas. That's the best for a NASCAR event on cable since the spring race at Darlington in 2021. So NASCAR seems like it's doing pretty fucking well. Like when you had mentioned at the start of the show, Spider, we got another great race this week out in Las Vegas. With all the complaints about horsepower and tires and all this other stuff, this is, I think we're witnessing a very, very good season, particularly through these first 5 races. All they can do is kind of fuck this up because I'm having good experience. People can complain about the Fox coverage if they want. I'm hearing positive stuff about CW coverage and whatnot. So, I think that overall, don't you think that this sport is in very good shape, at least from our vantage point?
Yeah, I mean it's I think even into last year we saw unbelievable photo finishes and dramatic late race finishes, and everything's been pointing up. I know a lot of people have been dumping on this Gen 7 or next gen car, whatever you want to call it, when it first came out, but I'm going to take the opposite of the opinion. I think it's provided us with some great racing. And you have guys that like Josh Berry that can be 50, 60 to 1 pre-race and still shock the field. And that's not just a one-off instance. You look at the rest of the top 3 from this weekend. You had Daniel Suarez and Ryan Preece, who I'm not familiar off the top with where their odds were pre-race, but I like to think that those guys were just as big of long shots. And I know there was a lot of drama, but honestly, that's like, to me, an explanation for why this race was so well received. And then I flip back, we saw F1 season opener this year, or this weekend, and I'm watching that after a big St. Patrick's Day in Chicago. And I made a shit ton of money off F1 this week. You want to know why? Because I was chalky as hell. I did a parlay between 2 guys to finish top 2, Max Verstappen, Lando Norris. I wasn't sure who was going to win, but guess what? Lando finished 1, Max finished 2. Cash that. Cash Lando outright. Cash George Russell podium. So, I mean, not to take a shot at F1, but we are very fortunate for the parity that exists in NASCAR. And I think this weekend at Las Vegas was a testament to that. Anyone can win. And I think that's evidenced by the results we saw. Ryan Preece, Daniel Suarez right behind Josh Berry, who were all long shots. So extremely satisfied top to bottom. And I think NASCAR has done a great job about kind of making some tracks that might have been kind of grown stale, a little bit more dramatic and exciting with whatever you want to call it, the package or whatever they've cooked up. It seems like they have a winning formula.
What does this season feel like, this young season feel like for you, Quigs and Moon? How do you feel this season is shaping up? Is it one for the ages?
It's well, I don't know. It's a little early for that, but
Mhm.
it's just I don't know how to say it. In a good way, it's just less chaotic than last year. Like last year, it felt like every show we did was either one of those insane finishes, which was awesome, or it would be like NASCAR's making up rules and there's the broadcast like there was a lot of like complaints last year. This year, no complaints, just watching some great racing. So I like it. It's a calm NASCAR.
It's a calm NASCAR. Moon, how do you feel about it?
I like it. I think it's going good. I mean, there's been some hiccups, I guess, with like the white flag yellows and stuff early in the year, but overall it does have like a good feel to it. I think that we've had good races, even with the Bell 3 in a row. It never has seemed like he's just outright like gonna show up. And I mean, I was betting against him when he went 3 in a row because I didn't think he could do it. So I'm with Spider. I think we're lucky to have such depth in the field where, yeah, it's probably frustrating for the drivers that sometimes just due to pitch strategy and how hard it is to pass, that somebody running 15th can jump up in front of them and then hold on to run better than them. But from a viewership standpoint, it makes a race like Sunday really exciting, where you have a lot of differing tire strategies and people, maybe pitting under one caution, not pitting under the next. And then obviously with the wheels falling off for some people and the chaos in that regard, I don't think we could ask for a whole lot more without outright chaos and just constant stupid stuff. This has felt like a really well put together season that's kind of played out naturally. Like there hasn't been, I feel like, a lot of crazy bullshit other than just the natural chaos of cup racing.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think I don't know, like I'm not soured by the complaints yet, I guess is my point. I every time I sit down to watch a race, which obviously is every week, I seem to be having a very good time. I don't hear a lot about this, so I'm going to bring it up right now. So the penalties we're recording on Wednesday, penalties, fines, and suspensions are out from Vegas. And as expected, the number 8 and number 19 crew each had a wheel coming fastened during the race, so they got the correct, suspensions and fines for that. But also this, NASCAR officials have issued suspensions to 2 crew members for violations of the substance abuse policy. And these 2 guys were suspended indefinitely. One's a rear tire changer for RFK Racing, and the other guy works as a jackman in the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series. No reason to put these guys on blast on the show. I kind of Googled around this, and I wasn't able to find out exactly what the infractions were for, but NASCAR's official policy is they prohibit the misuse of alcohol, prescription drugs, any other substance used in a manner that affects safety or impacts the integrity of the competition, including but not limited to illegal or performance-enhancing substances. All NASCAR members are responsible for whatever goes into their body. As a boxing guy, I deal with this all the time. Canelo Alvarez had some sausages while he was down in Mexico, and they just happened to be filled with Dianabol. Like, you see about this stuff all the time. You don't hear about this very much in NASCAR. So being that they're 2, a jackman and a tire changer or something, is this a steroids thing? Is it one of those things where these guys just got a little bit crazy in Vegas and, went to the bag? What's going, and the only other time I've really heard of this is like Almendinger once said that he accidentally took an Adderall or something.
That's what I was going to say, Adderall. I think there was kind of a while back a big like finger pointing Adderall scandal of just like everybody saying like, yeah, everybody's doing Adderall except for me.
Right. And I know like sometimes we talk about stuff like Lucy's with nicotine and whatever that does. I believe drivers are allowed to use them, right? You see drivers packing lips before they get into the car. Moon, do you know of any of this? Because you're a resident druggie and you're also the biggest like I'm fucking with you.
No, their policy is like one of the strictest in sports. Like I've heard of like people getting popped on pre-workouts. I want to say somebody had something in their coffee one time that was some sort of like workout supplement, and that was a driver. I don't want to blast him and bring up old shit, but like they worked through it and it was fine. But yeah, like just because I've found somebody pops in like a NASCAR drug test does not mean that they were even doing hard drugs. They could have literally tried some sort of supplement in their drink or mix their coffee wrong and pop for something, which I understand NASCAR probably needs a really, really strict policy because it's the most dangerous sport there is.
Yeah.
So I understand that, but sometimes I do feel like some of these guys, especially some of these crew guys, probably get a raw end of the deal. And I don't know the story with these guys. These guys, they could have, it could be a pre-workout situation or it could be something more. But that said, there seems to always be more to the story than just like, oh, somebody failed a drug test.
It's suspended indefinitely, so I don't know if that's because there's an ongoing investigation, right? And again, this is just conjecture. We're not even giving the guys names, but I just found it almost refreshing because as I looked in the history of it, teams let you go. Like during suspensions, teams also have a zero tolerance policy too. So all of a sudden, Penske would be like, "Sorry, that's it. You're fucking gone." So yeah, it's just something that I haven't been privy to so far. And so whatever, I'm going to keep an eye on it to see exactly what it was, just because I have a morbid curiosity because it happened maybe in Vegas. These guys are just hitting the bag at fucking Aria or something like that. I only got one DM, a guy named Tommy. He had given me a clip of Laps Down Pod. It's a podcast, NASCAR podcast run by two beautiful women. And I had seen it and I just wanted to point it out because NASCAR has taken over golf for me as my favorite thing to nap to.
Yeah.
Watching the beginning of the race, falling asleep for like 20 or 30 laps, and then waking up and like a really cool part of the race. As much as I tell people you have to get to the track in order to fall in love with the sport, you do have to see this thing live. Similar to hockey. I only go to hockey live. I can't watch it on TV. But watching NASCAR on a Sunday afternoon and falling asleep for about an hour in between that, I look forward to that shit every fucking week now. So the young ladies at Laps Down Pod and Tommy who sent this to me, man, it fucking resonates with me more than anybody else. I love falling asleep in the middle of NASCAR races.
It gets
You
me
do it?
sometimes.
It gets
And
you,
it's
right?
and I try not to. I'm trying to, because it's like we have to talk about it. So if I
Right.
sleep during a portion, I got to go back and somehow watch what I missed. And it just, that like end of stage 1 to beginning of stage 2, I'm good for a good 30 minutes. Just I missed that part.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I slept through the Xfinity race on Saturday.
It's better than golf. Like
St.
golf does
Patrick's
that to
Day
me.
was a big bender. So I got back and the Xfinity race was coming on, and I was pretty lit after we dyed the River Green here in Chicago, and I just put a bet in Justin Allgaier, fell asleep for the rest of the afternoon, woke up to my DraftKings account being having a little bit more money in on it. So I don't really know what happened in the Xfinity race, and thank you, Justin Allgaier. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So do you fall asleep, Moonhead? I got to imagine.
I used to be bad, but I've had to stop. Like now I watch outside for that reason when I can, just so I don't fall asleep.
Never during the Cup race.
Somebody's got to get the tweets up, you know?
Yeah, I know. If I fall asleep, we're screwed. So I'm kind of the last line of defense.
Yeah.
No sleeping during the Cup race. That's where I draw the line. And also, usually I'm watching the Xfinity and truck race unless there's
those
extreme circumstances. But this week, St. Patrick's Day got the better of me. The green beer really did a number on me.
There's that one thing where everybody, married guys, they schedule their vasectomy on Masters weekend. And even though vasectomies now have become so commonplace that you can go to work the next day, your wife doesn't know that necessarily. So they give you the frozen peas and you can just lay on the couch and watch the Masters all weekend. And I'm telling you, put this on the list too. So the two ladies at the Laps Down Pod, you're my spirit animal. And I could tell everybody else out there, I get the soundest sleep sometimes in the middle of a NASCAR race. We're going to recap what had happened this weekend in particular, and it's brought to you by Game Time. They don't make it easy to buy concert tickets these days. You got to sign up for the pre-sale, get in the queue. By the time you get through, the best seats are gone. So going to a concert should be about the show itself, not waiting in a virtual line. Lucky for me, I always use Game Time, the official ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. Game Time makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the app actually go down closer as it gets to the showtime. Plus, Game Time Picks feature makes it even easier to find the great deals on the seats you want. Just pull up your chosen event, turn on the GT Picks setting at the top of the screen, and browse the best local Game Time pick deals near you on the Game Time app homepage. I was looking for tickets for Gloria Stefan the other day, and I saw an amazing Game Time Picks deal for the great seats, and I'm only paying a couple of $100 for them. So what are you waiting for? I'm going to buy these Gloria Stefan tickets right now with Game Time Picks. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use the code Rubbin RUBBIN, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account on the Game Time app and redeem the code, spell out Rubbin, RUBBIN, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And what time is it? It's game time. All right, so Spider had mentioned the other two series. After 2 rain delays, Corey Heim wins trucks, making 2 out of 3 wins for him this season. He's being dominant. Corey Day on a Hendrick development deal was on the pole for trucks and wins on dirt in Vegas. Unfortunately, Ty Gibbs did not have an easy time in that dirt race. You guys see that guy flip? Felt
Yeah.
bad for him.
It seems like he just can't stay on the ground this year. He's flying. Him and Ryan Preece are just straight up astronauts, pilots, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I saw someone replied to the tweet and called him Fly Gibbs, which I thought was very fitting.
I kind of like that nickname, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's Fly.
And then after leading over 100 laps, Justin Allgaier gets his first win at Vegas in the Xfinity series. Morgan Freeman does the call on Sunday. What did you guys think of Morgan Freeman getting up there? I think people were expecting a yell. I thought it was absolutely perfect the way that he belted that out, didn't you?
Yeah.
I'll say I'll take the contrarian take here. I was a little underwhelmed. I'm not sure what I was expecting from him. The giving the command was a little bit meh in my opinion.
Okay.
However, I do think he saved it. I saw a lot of great stuff of him interacting with the drivers. It seemed like he kind of bought in. He was wearing the Bubba Wallace hat, and then he was messing with Austin Cindric. I saw him talking to William Byron. So yeah, I mean, I love when the guests are there for more than just, what they're being paid to do or what their agreement is. And it seemed like Morgan Freeman was actually, interacting with the drivers, and the drivers seemed to get a kick out of that as well. So I think he delivered from that aspect, but I could have used a little bit more from him on the command.
He's just one of the few guys that can pull off a relaxed, like most people, it seems lazy or like they're not into it. And it did seem kind of like he wasn't into it, but it like works for him.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, because even like that narration voice of his that he's known for, it's not like he ever yelled, "They're fucking Andy in the ass." Like he never did that during Shawshank. Like I almost was looking forward to like that sort of monotone thing. And by the way, the flyover was awesome. I don't know if they kind of came over the mountains, then came down a little bit right towards it, but Jesus Christ, that was one of the best ones that I've ever seen. I'd like to be live for that at some point. What did you think of Morgan Freeman there, Moonhead?
I honestly don't know what people were expecting. When I heard it, I was like, that was exactly what I wanted. And then on Twitter, people were very quick to say they disagreed. But I think that Morgan's like the one guy on earth who can get away with not yelling and like being pumped up for the command, because that's Morgan Freeman. It would have been. I thought it would have been weird if he yelled. Like, yeah, I wouldn't want to see Morgan. I think I would have been
disappointed if he yelled.
Yeah, exactly.
You would have got the smooth, buttered talk. Yeah,
exactly.
I like Spider taking the other side just to make the conversation, and then we all become the biggest Morgan Freeman fucking simps as soon as it goes off. But I don't know. I think that some of those ones, I don't even know who's the Grand Marshal this week. I also liked how he was like, gentlemen, he didn't have to do the driver's thing. When Spider and I did it, even though there were no females in the field at that race, we still had to say, drivers, start your engines. It's just natural to say gentlemen, but he just went up there and said, gentlemen, start your engines, because he doesn't give a single fuck. I think what most people are talking about outside of our guest who's coming up in a couple of minutes, Josh Berry, was the move that Chris Bella had pulled off, getting into his own pit box, them not being able to tighten his front left. And then as he's going down pit road, he gets yelled out, it's not tight, it's not tight. And luckily he was able to pull in Chase Briscoe, his teammate's box, which was not being occupied at the time. And Chase's guys had tightened up from, he went on his way and he had gotten a penalty for it. But the opposite of which, having a wheel come off, would have been a lot more destructive for the 20 team. I've never seen anything like that before. I thought that was a big brain move. And also very lucky. I'm going to ask this of Josh Berry a little bit later on. Do you think Chris Bell could have gotten away with that if he didn't pull into a pit box? Because NASCAR is a little bit different. If he didn't pull into a pit box that happened to be owned by Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, I have no idea where it stand on this. Well, I didn't even know that this was allowed.
Which I guess it's not, kind of, but
yeah,
it is still. Like,
well, it's not banned. Like, it's not one of those things. And I think with
Yeah,
safety
it's not like
first.
he's parked for the day
Yeah,
or anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a manufacturer alliance thing. I think if he pulled into an HMS pit box, they're not going to do shit. They're just going to stay on the other side of the wall. And again, I could be completely wrong on that, but I think it was a great move in real time from him going to Chase Briscoe's box, and then his teammate just took care of it. And this is the second week straight where we've seen crew chiefs spot that. And while I'm saying this, I want to give a correction. Last week I said that Miles Stanley was Josh Berry's spotter. That is incorrect. Miles Stanley is Josh Berry's crew chief. I saw a bad tweet, I guess, so I don't mean to be spreading misinformation, but this was the second consecutive week where we saw a driver's day get saved on pit road after they made a mistake with the tire, and then they ended up getting it fixed. And sure, they got penalized here, but it could have been much worse. And we saw what happens when drivers lose tires, especially this weekend. It ultimately derailed their day. Kyle Busch, poor guy. It happened to him. So I think it's all a matter of just finding someone, a teammate or someone, a manufacturer, and that would probably be the explanation for it. Like I said, I don't know if all of the teams would be willing to do what Chase Briscoe's team did for Christopher Bell there.
I think more than you would think. I think if and maybe with a little less hustle. I mean, not that I think the pit crew in there was kind of confused and wasn't the fastest, but I think a lot if he just yelled out the window like give me a quick turn, I think a lot of them would do it. I don't think they're just going to leave him sitting
Like,
there.
I don't know if there's a universe where they just turn their backs to him and say, sorry, no room in the inn. Fuck you.
Yeah,
Particularly since they're almost protecting their driver from not having a wheel come off during the race. I
It
don't
is
know.
It is a massive safety issue, so I could see why,
Yeah.
to Quiggs's point, why like more teams than I would originally think might be willing to help him
I don't even
out.
think from the safety issue. I think it's like just a
Well, safety, suspensions, there's a whole, crock of shit that goes along with the tire coming loose.
Well, there
Moonhead,
were two tires came loose. I'd seen somebody who ran a clip, a Red Bull car had two tires, I think, come loose, and one of them went into the infield and took out a tent, going 100 miles an hour. Like nobody got hurt miraculously. I don't remember what race it was. So, it definitely is NASCAR's best interest to keep the tires on the car. But I don't know. Like I've seen them use different equipment. We've seen like different pit boxes use different equipment with pit boxes that don't have any alliances. Just like, hey, this is down. Can I get a roll of duct tape or some bullshit? So, I mean, is there a universe, Moon, where Kyle Busch pulls into some pit box and somebody says, "Go fuck yourself"?
I mean, maybe if it's somebody that he immediately had wronged, but I feel like a lot of times the caution for a wheel coming off or the potential wreck it could cause will make people probably step up to the plate and tighten it, especially teammates. Like the Bell deal, they had to have planned that before, right? Like, because there's no way that they were
They
able
said
to
they've
think that
talked
quick.
about it. They're like,
Yeah.
it's in theory they've talked about it, but we all know, what if there was no JGR pit boxes that far down? If everyone had the back of pit row and he has no allies to kind of go into, is it one of those things where he just backs it up? I don't know. Like, what the fuck does he do?
Yeah, I don't know. That's
Yeah.
a tough one. NASCAR, I feel like NASCAR's in a box because they can't discourage this, I feel like, because it's a safety issue, and like wheels flying off is like probably one of the most dangerous things that can happen. But at the same time, at what point is pit road going to just turn into all out chaos and people pulling into people's stalls and people arguing about not tightening wheels or whatever? Like, so I could see it puts them in a tough spot. So I don't know, but I'd be shocked unless it was somebody who just straight up had beef if they said, yeah, no, we're not going to tighten your wheel, because at that point, that person's coming off pit road dead ass last anyway. So like, it's not like their penalty's already been served.
Unless it's a team that needed a caution.
Well,
Right.
yeah, I guess that's true. But I mean, I would think more than likely if they're thinking quick enough to pull into a stall because the wheels are loose, it's probably not green flag pit stops. It's probably already a caution. Because I feel like under green, you're not going to want to do that. You're just going to limp it around on the apron and come back in.
We don't give enough flowers to NASCAR, but I think they handled it perfectly. It was a perfect example for people to talk about, obviously, this week, and giving the pass-through penalty or whatever was issued to Christopher on the spot was the right call because that's in the rule book, and it's not like he topped off his tank or asked somebody to clean his windshield or something. I think this is a very specific situation. Bell handled it perfectly, and I think NASCAR responded to it perfectly. We don't say that enough, I guess. Josh Berry wins, right, in his 52nd Cup Series. What did we see last week where we all of a sudden got very bullish on, because Spider had said Quiggs called it, right? Like, to a degree. Josh
Yeah.
Berry hasn't been on many of our betting cards over the past couple of seasons, and Quiggs called it. Like, what were we seeing in this guy? Is it the fact that Ty Gibbs sort of has been having such a tough year that we had to go further down the bench? Because that was the question we had asked. Who's that guy who's going to get their first win first? And Josh Berry wound up being the guy who I think was the consensus favorite. We didn't know it was going to be this last week in Vegas, but something had turned for this guy where his finish at Phoenix was fantastic, but there's something different about him now. Do we see him in a different light now, Josh Berry?
He's been driving great, first of all, but that car has been awesome. Like that was kind of more like just that equipment that he's in is the best thing Wood Brothers has put out in a long time, and he's driving great. Like, nothing to take away from him, but what I saw was just how good that car was in some of those races prior.
The one thing I would say about Josh Berry is, we talked about Carson Hocevar and how aggressive he's been this season, and he was my pick. But I think while we're in the name of like giving people their flowers, Josh Berry, not only he got the win first, back to our discussion from last week, but he also has been doing it in a clean manner. He hasn't been super aggressive. He hasn't been moving guys. He's been incredibly respectful, pretty low profile. And he just came out of nowhere and won this, which I shouldn't say really came out of nowhere, because as he's alluded to in our interview, he has been leading laps and running up front and in contention in 3 races so far this year in this early season. So it's not totally unexpected, but then again, you look at the odds, and DraftKings had him as high as 60-1 at one point last week. It is pretty impressive what Josh Berry and that 21 team has put together. I think it's a combination of what Quigg said. It's better equipment now, and then he's got a little bit of he seems to have a great team around him, not only with the Penske alliance, but also Miles Stanley, a crew chief, like I said, saving his day at Phoenix and then putting him in a position here late in this race to ultimately get their 101st win for Wood Brothers.
Is it more than 101 wins, Moonhead? Are we looking at like a miraculous season for Wood Brothers and Josh Berry?
It looks like it. I mean, they've run good early, and I don't anticipate them slowing down, especially when we get to the end of the year and they're going to have to step up to playoff time. I think that it's very possible we see Berry get 2 or 3 wins this year with how they've been running. Because I mean, I saw a stat. I think now with Burton's win at Daytona and this one, the Wood Brothers have won 2 of the last like 17 Cup Series races or something like that.
That's
and then
correct.
before that, they hadn't won in however many years it was. I think it was 2017 with Blaney or something. So I like their chances. I could see them easily picking up, another win or 2 throughout the year.
Does Wood Brothers give up the right to complain because of their alliance with Penske? Because you're talking about that valley when they weren't winning races in between Blaney and then Harrison Burton last year. And that valley was almost blamed exclusively on the Wood Brothers, on the 21 team, on the car, on the driver, on Wood Brothers. And now that, Berry has shown some life, and obviously we had seen Harrison Burton win late last season, it's being considered the 4th Penske car. It's like they're giving more credit to Penske, but Penske didn't get any of the shit on when they weren't doing very well. You think that's worth it for Wood Brothers? It obviously has to be, that they have to certainly take a little bit of a back seat to Penske getting some of the credit for their recent success. Right? You know what I mean? Like it's so good for them. Like, what do you think about that relationship? Almost like a little brotherish type thing.
Yeah, I think that they probably, I don't know how bad Wood Brothers would feel, because I don't think that they've really run like complete shit in that period in between. Like, yeah, they had a few bad years here and there, but like Paul Menard had good runs. Matt DiBenedetto obviously got really close to, winning, I think, at least one race at Dega for him and ran
Bristol
pretty
Yep.
good.
really cool.
Yeah.
I think he got
So,
a
like,
P2 finish.
they've run good. I think it's just kind of connecting the right pieces in the right places. And really, I would say that last year was probably one of their worst years in that stretch. They just happened to kind of salvage it with the wins. So I don't know really that they should feel bad. I think if anything, Josh Berry should just feel good, because I feel like he might have been the missing piece to the puzzle, and not necessarily all behind the wheel. Like, I think it could be just feedback, communication, all of it. They seem to be meshing very well early on.
I know that Henrik had a great race. They placed all 4 cars in the top 10 for the second race in a row. Congratulations to them. But the gentleman who I'd like to have on the show, and the one that we've been talking about quite a bit, particularly you and I, Spider, is Ryan Preece. His third place finish this week was the best of his last 177 races. And he says he feels more comfortable in Brad's car than he did in his own. And he led 43 laps this year so far. Whether it's Chris Bell saying that he wants Ryan Preece in a bar fight in Mexico, or us seeing that fucking garbage plate that he had together. Remember when he came out of the catering tent before he then flipped in Daytona? Ryan Preece is becoming more and more easy to root for in the past couple of weeks, and certainly this season. And I can't wait to have him on the show. How do you feel about Ryan Preece, bud?
I love it. I think both him and Josh Berry have benefited from moving from SHR, and we'll hear about that in a little bit in our interview with Josh Berry. But it seems like given all the distractions and the sale and the closure of the team, there's just been a lot of stuff going on with SHR that both Ryan Preece and Josh Berry have tremendously benefited from. A new change of scenery, if you will. It seems like Ryan Preece is in a spot where he could easily get a win this year. I mean, he was running pretty good at Dega, and then even this past weekend at Vegas, we saw him with a P3. So sometimes I think that's all it takes, is just kind of changing up or getting out of a little rut. And I've been extremely impressed with what I saw from Ryan Preece. He's a guy that's easy to root for, and I would love to see him become the next driver to get his first win. So.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever been laid off, but I have, and somebody inevitably says, listen, this all happens for a reason, and it's bigger and better things to come. And when you're just laid off, the thing that you want to tell those people is to go fuck themselves. But it really is the case here. Like the Stewart Haas guys seem to be doing pretty well. So I don't know. I'm just overall happy for the whole fucking crew. And most importantly, we're happy for Josh. So we're about to go 3 wide with Josh Berry. It's brought to you by Blue Chew. You can have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew is offering a combo so strong, it'll knock your socks off and your neighbor's socks off. You'll have to move towns with the amount of noise you'll be making. Blue Chew Max has arrived, and it combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. This combo acts fast and it lasts. Guys, be ready when she needs it and get your first month of Blue Chew for free. Great sex is a few clicks away. Sign up at BlueChew.com. Consult one of their licensed medical providers. And once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part, it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew won't stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house. That is the mission. Make life easier by getting harder and discovering your options at BlueChew.com. And we got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month Blue Chew for free when you use the promo code Rubbin, RUBBIN. Just pay $5 in shipping. That's promo code Rubbin. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. And with that, let's go talk to Josh Berry. Everybody, as promised, we're sitting here with the all-time winningest driver in Cars Tour history. He's 52 races into his Cup Series career. He's got 9 top 10s, and most importantly, he's got 1 motherfucking win, and that's in Las Vegas. And it's Josh Berry. We spoke to him when we were like, oh, you're going to be Rookie of the Year, all that kind of stuff. We haven't spoke to him since then. He was just as happy the first time we spoke to him. This time he seems a little bit more happy. Josh, how you doing, my man? How's everything?
Yeah, it's good, man. It's been a good week, good weekend. Obviously, Sunday was a big day, man. Winning the Cup Series is a big deal. So accomplishing that was pretty awesome, and had a busy week of doing all kinds of different things related to the win and preparing for Homestead. So we're excited to get to the next race.
Seems like everybody loves you. All the drivers were very, very happy. And sometimes when people win, there's a huge difference between an underdog winning and a fluke winning, right? This is an underdog story that everyone's extremely happy for because everybody respects what you bring to the racetrack and off. So how has it been with some of your peers coming up to you? Because I'm sure it kind of gets nice and buddy when you're not one of those guys who everybody either hates or disrespects. You're the exact opposite of that. How's it been with your peers since you won?
Yeah, no, it's been good. I mean, I've had a lot of people reach out. I think all my former teammates during my opportunity at Hendrick, all those guys, a lot of people from that opportunity reached out. Former teammates from Stewart Haas, and so it's been really cool, right? I think it was a big win on Sunday, and it was a big win for short track racers and grassroots racing, and those that don't maybe have all the funding to bring to the table and buy a ride. About 90% of the trucks in Xfinity Series, right? So people have respect for how I got here and what I did, and it's really cool to see.
Speaking of how you got here, started, virtual racing, like maybe around early 2010, 2008, potentially. Talk to me about how you actually made it. Like you said, you don't have the funding, or you don't come from a rich family or second generation racing family. What does it take to get to the highest level and win a cup race like what we saw? And what advice would you give to those kids that come from similar situations as you?
Well, I mean, without a doubt, I've been very fortunate to have some amazing opportunities over the course of my career. I grew up in Middle Tennessee racing, raced go-karts, raced four-cylinder car, legend cars, primarily ended up at the Nashville Fairgrounds, racing on the quarter mile for years. And, throughout that time, the last couple of years of me doing that there, I got into, racing online, and specifically what became iRacing. And honestly, the biggest reason for that for me was it was a way to race and be competitive, and it didn't cost a lot of money like racing a real car did, right? So that was kind of where I got with that. And ultimately, I got really fortunate to meet Dale Jr. on there, became a good friend of his. He had asked what I did, who I was. He kind of asked some about my life and what I was doing and what I was racing. And I remember I prefer when he tells the story, but I remember, I sent him some videos and stuff, and ultimately he ended up saying, "Hey man, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Man, I'd really like to just drive a late model." Right. Cause I grew up watching, these guys race late models on the 5/8 mile at the fairgrounds, and dreamed of having that opportunity. And, he put together a test for me in his late model program. That was in 2010. We went to Motor Mile Speedway in Virginia, did a test. The test went well. That turned into a couple race opportunity, and ultimately ended up moving to North Carolina and racing for Junior Motorsports full time in the late model program. And, that transpired into, basically over a decade of racing those cars all over North Carolina, Virginia. I think we won. It was 100 wins for Junior Motorsports, which 5 of those were Xfinity. So it was 95 races in the late model stock, kind of all over, all the big races, championships. And ultimately that led me to, getting an opportunity with JRM and the Xfinity Series.
What about the emotional roller coaster you've been on? Like when you get your shot at SHR, then all of a sudden they're closing down. I'm assuming that had to be maybe close to a low point to get into the show. Then you get another opportunity, and then you take that opportunity and you run with it into, I know we're only 5 races through the season, but you have more top 5s than Penske combined, right? Like there's all these cool little stats that reflect how great you are this season. So talk to me about the peaks and valleys that you've had, just in the last year alone.
Yeah, it's been a lot, honestly. Last year was tough. Like you said, emotionally, there was a lot going on. And And it was hard kind of throughout the beginning part of the year because, you especially when the season started, right? You have all this excitement and everybody's like, you're driving the 4-car and you're replacing Kevin Harvick, and this is such an amazing opportunity. And everyone around you is like, there's all these question marks about what Stewart Haas Racing is going to be, right?
Mhm.
Like everyone from the outside is like, you should be, running in the top 5 and you should be doing this. And the 4 cars, got this huge legacy. And then around, everything around you, right? You got people walking around wondering, how many charters are we selling? Is the team going to be around? And honestly, that all started before we even made it to Daytona. And the best part, honestly, about the situation, for us, I felt like is when they finally announced it and everyone was like, okay, cool. That's what's happening now. We're going to have to go do something different. I felt like that our group did a great job of locking in there and really digging deep. And we had some, really strong runs throughout the early portion of the summer, which ultimately was enough to get me, an opportunity at the Wood Brothers and to keep Cup racing.
Talk to me about this opportunity. Obviously, you've done a lot of substitute driving in the past for Hendrick and Legacy, and then the expectations associated with driving for Dale Jr. and JRM on the Xfinity level, as well as replacing Kevin Harvick in the 4-car. Now at Wood Brothers, is there lesser expectations? I mean, I look at it, and on this show, we discuss a lot about gambling. They had you 60-1 to win the race at Las Vegas, and you still did it. As a driver, is it easier driving at a spot where there might be lesser expectations? And what are your expectations with the opportunity you have before you at Wood Brothers now?
Well, I think that, going into this, I feel like, the expectations maybe from the outside were probably less because, the 21 car hasn't had the consistency, maybe that people would expect or see. So maybe from the outside, they felt like that, there wasn't high expectations for me, but, inside Wood Brothers Racing and this 21 team, we felt like we had all the pieces and parts to go out and run well. Obviously we have a great, affiliation with Team Penske. They've had a ton of success over the last couple of years. We have access to all that as the Wood Brothers and the Team Penske work together. And we felt like that we had every piece that we could to go out and run well, right? Like I would say that starting the season and be in contention in my eyes, and, with 3 out of the first 5 races, we've been in contention, we've led or been in the top 5. And to win already, I think has most definitely exceeded our expectations for what we thought was possible. But, I think that we're in a great place and we have a great group. My crew chief and I, Miles Stanley, he's done a great job. We have gelled really well together as a whole team. And I think that, there's a lot of good days ahead of us.
I was really impressed with Miles Stanley. I heard him on the radio telling you to back up. The tire wasn't secured properly at Phoenix, and I thought that was really impressive and potentially saved your day, which turned out to be another good showing for Josh Berry. We also saw you extremely competitive at Atlanta prior to getting taken out of that race. But is it fair to consider Wood Brothers a 5th Penske car? Because the way you're driving, it certainly feels like they have 5 cars in the race. 4, excuse me. Yeah.
I mean, we most definitely have a great relationship with those at Team Penske, and Miles, my crew chief Miles, has been a really important part of Team Penske the last couple of years, kind of behind the curtain, I guess you could say, on their engineering department. They've had a lot of success this last couple of years. So I mean, yeah, I think we have everything we feel like we need to go out and compete and run well. The biggest thing we feel like at this point we need to do is just kind of keep building together, keep working together, adding to our notebook. And we got some room to improve in some areas kind of all around. And I think that makes us excited to be as fast as we are and know that there's more potential out there.
One of the things we were talking about earlier in the show was Chris Bell's big brain move going into Briscoe's pit box to tighten up on the left front. Is there talk in all shops this week saying, hey, listen, because Chris Bell might not have had the luck of having one of his teammates being in front of him where he could have pulled into his box. By the way, when he pulled into his box, Briscoe's box, narrowly missed you. Almost took almost ended your day right there. Is there talk in the shops? I mean, your shop is very busy because you're talking about the win, saying, hey, listen, what happens if Chris Bell comes into the 21 box? Is it one of those things where you guys all turn around? Is it, because I know you have one of the, Wood Brothers has one of the strongest relationships, with another team with Penske. That seems to be something that's just very, I don't know, it's natural and organic or whatever. Let's say somebody comes into your box. Is NASCAR kinder and gentler and says, oh, Chris, we'll help you out? Zits it? Or do they say, go fuck yourself, go find another, JGR box to go into? What's the deal here? Because everyone loves that move.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's been an interesting talking point. So I'm assuming that so did Chris make that decision himself, or was he told to do that?
He was told to just pull into someone else's box, if I'm not mistaken.
And he had the wherewithal to see,
the 19,
Chase. Yeah. So he was able, and, thank God Chase obviously didn't need the box at the time. So it did work out as well as it could. Obviously the penalty is something that he'd much rather have than all the stuff that would have came if a tire had fallen off. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, it does seem like NASCAR has a friendly relationship driver to driver, right? But, like sometimes you need that competitive edge. And, like even dragging your feet. Oh, let me go get my gun. Like there's something you can do to slow down the process. I wonder if there is any chatter about that, or would you feel comfortable pulling into a non-Penske box, being like, hey, it's your old friend, Josh Berry. Can you help me out here type thing?
Maybe a few of them. I don't know. It's such an interesting dynamic that we haven't seen before, but I mean, ultimately really what the 20 team was able to avoid was the potential of the tire coming off. And, the suspension that would come with that. Right. I think nobody wants to see any other competitor lose a wheel once we get out on the racetrack. And obviously that's a safety hazard and you don't want that type of stuff happening really to anybody. So I think NASCAR will take a look at it. I don't really know that, I don't really feel like it's as big of a deal as getting made out of, right? Like I felt like if we had an issue and we, felt like we could stop and, one of my Penske teammates' boxes or whatever, they tighten up the wheel. I mean, I think that's fine. I think if he had just at the same time, if he just waited and backed up into his box, that would have been fine. But I don't know if that's really that much better than what he did. So, I don't think that. I think ultimately most of the competitors, nobody wants to see these guys lose wheels, and they're all the pit stops are so intense, they're so fast. It's so easy to just make a little bit of a mistake that I feel like most people would probably help a guy out and tighten up their wheel.
Going back to last year at SHR, how would you compare the equipment you had then to what you're driving now?
I don't know. It's hard to say. Obviously, we're part of the Ford family there last year, and it's just been a different environment, really. I think having the affiliation we do, being able to lean on Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric, learn from those guys, and look at their notes and things that they've done over the last couple of years has definitely been an improvement. But our cars have been fast, and honestly, last year we had. There was a lot of races where we had fast cars and just never got the consistency that we wanted. And it seemed like the longer we went and the closer we were to shutting down, the harder and harder that got. Right. And it's hard to think that was a coincidence, right? Like, I think it was just getting harder on all of us. And, I definitely, without a doubt, wish that, the season would have finished stronger with the 4 team.
For sure.
I'm sorry, Spider, you got to follow up?
No, go ahead.
Spider alluded to it before, how the secret's out, right? Like, even when you won your first Xfinity race, I believe you won your first Xfinity race as a fill-in, right? So it wasn't expected also. It was one of those things where it's unexpected. So now that the secret's out, and you can tell by the gambling lines how you've shot up the board and whatnot, I've asked your teammate, Joey Logano, what's the track where Joey Logano feels he can dominate the most? And Joey had looked straight into the camera and said, every week I have the ability to dominate on any track, anywhere large. And I thought that's a cool thing to say, a flex. But as we're looking ahead at the schedule right now, what's the next track where you feel you have your best chance to dominate? Like winning on the 1.5 miles for a guy who's a short track guy. Do we wait a couple of weeks and then, all of a sudden put the house on you in Martinsville? I'm saying hypothetically, that type of thing. Where's the next track where we're going to see you dominate this thing?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm really excited to get to all the short tracks. With the amount of experience I have at that level, that's something that I'm really excited for. And I've felt like I've ran well in the next gen car on the short tracks. The look past that, Darlington ran third there last year in the 4. We had a really good car. We had a really good car in the Southern 500 as well there. And probably one of my favorites is Dover. I think is a favorite of mine. So later in the year, but yeah, I mean, I think ultimately I feel like we can compete everywhere, at least everywhere that's left-handers only. I've had a hell of a time with the right-handers, working hard to get better on those, but I feel like we're positioned to go week in and week out and run well, and Vegas was most definitely proof of that.
You won twice on the Xfinity level in Vegas. How relevant are Xfinity results when discussing where you'll finish in Cup? I know you just mentioned that Dover's a track you're looking forward to, another track you've had success in the Xfinity level at, as well as Martinsville and Charlotte. Are those potentially tracks we could see your next win coming at?
I think, those have all been really good tracks for me, right? And you see, you even look at prior results, right? Like we had a top 10 in the 600 last year. Sometimes, as a driver, just the track and the techniques of it seem to fit your style a little bit easier than others. And, still, I'm 50 races into a Cup career. I have a couple seasons of Xfinity. So I'm still, I'm just now getting these places for maybe the 4th or 5th time. Right. So, I definitely think that you can look at prior results. Obviously the next gen car is different. It takes different techniques to drive, but still most of the time, people have the tracks that they run well at and they love, and those tend to, bring out better results.
Talk to me about the celebration. I mean, we see Coach get up there whenever a Joe Gibbs driver wins, and he puts the checkered flag up and tells everyone to get back to work. Like, there are certain things that people do. You just won a race for Wood Brothers. What's that celebration like in Las Vegas? Do you go and find that slot machine that Denny molested and try to get some of your own off of that thing? What's it like for a guy like you who's, you know what I mean? Like, when you see people win at their home tracks, it's always kind of special. You're out in Vegas. That's where I want to win. I want to win out in Vegas. How was the celebration after that win?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty chill. I'd have loved to maybe stay over there and win a couple $100,000 in a slot machine like Denny, but we had to, we were busy at the track there for a couple hours, and then flew home late that night. I got home about 4 a.m. Opened a beer and watched the last 75 laps on the broadcast and soaked that in, and then really from then on, when I woke up the next morning, we've been busy ever since. So really haven't had a huge celebration yet. We're gonna, planning on later this week, we're gonna get together with the whole team and celebrate that a little bit more once we get a little more time. But it's hard in this sport, right? There's so much travel involved, and you race every weekend, right? So it's like you feel like you're borrowing time from the future, I guess, especially early in the week. We obviously want to go to Homestead and be prepared to go out and compete for a win again. And, we'll have some time, I think, tomorrow to celebrate a little bit and enjoy the win.
2 straight years of Wood Brothers in the playoffs. We saw last year Harrison Burton punching his ticket later on in the season. You get an early win here. Will that change how you race moving forward? I know you mentioned the Penske Alliance. Will they use you as a guinea pig for testing new setups and strategies? Or are you going to be out there driving like how we've seen so far this season, as you've alluded to, competing on leading laps in 3 of 5 races so far this year?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it gives us some flexibility to maybe try a few things here or there if we feel like we need to. But ultimately, in the position that we're in, 5 races into this deal is to just keep building on the same trajectory that we've been. And that's going to come from just, continue to prepare like we've been preparing, bring fast race cars, execute these races. We have some we've had some mistakes on pit road that we need to clean up. We got to keep working on that, trying to get those things dialed in before the playoffs start. And really, but for us, I mean, the best thing we can do heading into the playoffs would be to, win another race and, get some more playoff points, right? Like that's the biggest thing is you want to get, stack those playoff points. That way you have a little bit of a buffer if something happens in the playoff rounds that hold you back. And so really the best thing we can do is just go out and keep competing like we have been and running up front and competing for wins.
I know you probably hate this question, but you went to high school with Taylor Swift as well as Joseph Newgarden. Do you have relations with them? What was your relationship with them in high school? Obviously now the Penske ties. Are you and Joseph still rubbing shoulders consistently, given that?
Well, yeah. So actually, with Taylor, I did share, she went to the same high school I did. She was in a different grade. I really didn't know her. There's I know of somebody who knew her kind of deal, but didn't really know her. But it is a funny story. It's one of those things when you're like doing an interview one day and somebody's like, hey, what's a funny, crazy story about you, right? And I'm like, oh, I went to school with Taylor Swift. And you don't think that that's that big of a deal. But I mean, good gosh, man, every time it never ends.
Yeah.
And then she starts dating Travis Kelce and it all comes back again. And I'm like, I don't care about Travis Kelce. Like, I don't.
Would you consider your,
right?
It
never ends. Now, Joseph, on the other hand, Joseph is somebody that I've had a ton of respect for. Obviously, got to do some work with him over the off season through one of our mutual partners, which is PPG. We actually went back to Hendersonville, where I'm from. We went to the middle school we went to together, went and spoke to a classroom full of students, took pictures with them. The kids showed us our old yearbook photos and made fun of us and had a ball doing that. But, and it's funny with Joseph because really we were kind of both in school at the same time, but really didn't know each of us raced, right? Like he didn't really know I raced. I didn't really know he raced. We just were around each other, but didn't really connect the dots there. So it's makes for a funny story.
We're going to let you go in a couple of seconds, but before, can you just do our job for us and tell us what to expect this week at Miami? It's a track that the fans love. We love to watch you guys on that track. How does the drivers feel going into Homestead this weekend, and what can we expect? What type of racing can we expect?
I think the drivers, all of us love Homestead. Man, it's such a fun track to drive. I mean, the best thing is I feel like it puts on great racing because there's so many grooves. You can run the bottom, you can run the middle, you can run the top, and even you got the top and then you got right against the wall as an option as well. So I think it just creates a ton of opportunities for passing and racing. And, the track, it wears tires, which we all love because we always talk about tire wear and fall off, creating good racing, and always a ton of strategy there. So it's one of my favorites for sure. I think it's a lot of the fields a favorite of theirs, and it always seems to put on a great show. So I'm sure Sunday will be no different. Would you be pumped to have the championship race there? I know that's kind of what's in the works. Yeah. No, I think that would be a great option. I think that I like the idea of, I know there's a lot to it that I don't probably even know about, but, I kind of like the idea of it rotating maybe every couple of years. I think, maybe not get stuck on one thing for as long as we have, but, if we're going to keep the championship race, I think it needs to, hit a few different venues, every few years. And the people from the Penske Alliance don't tell you to shut the hell up when you say that because they've been so dominant at Phoenix, right? It's just like Joey said, we could go win this weekend. People thought we didn't want to have a championship race in Vegas, and we whooped our ass this weekend, right? So
yeah, right.
Do it there too. The secret's out. Josh Berry is a wheelman, and he should be on your cards just about every week, particularly a couple of tracks that are coming up soon. Josh, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. Wish you nothing but the best of luck. We'll see you at the track. Yeah, thank you, man. All righty, so that was Josh Berry. Welcome back anytime. And like I said, we're going to hear about him a lot more, I think, on the Picking the Tires segment going forward, particularly as we start to get into some of these short tracks. But let's talk about what we have coming up. We're going to be heading to South Florida this weekend. NASCAR is, with another full schedule. Trucks have the Baptist Health 200 on Friday at 8 p.m. on Fox. Kyle Larson will be driving the 07 for Spire, and Ross will be wheeling the 44. And spotters are fucked. Did you guys see this thing that I put in there? The paint schemes
for Spire. It's
just all the Hendrick cars ones.
it's fucking awful. I
Oh,
don't
and
know.
they all have a 7 on them.
They all have some Yeah, it's like the 07, the 7, the 71, and then they threw in the 77 too. All have like that blue and white. I don't know how these guys are not going to fuck this up. This is the most blatant I've ever seen it, but it is what it is.
I guess they all have different numbers on the roof, which I guess is
Slightly different
what-
colors too.
maybe
One's yellow, one's orange, one's white.
I guess that's kind of the vantage point Spires. But yeah, they're fucked.
Yeah, they seem like they're going to be absolutely fucked. Saturday, Xfinity is running the Hard Rock Bet 300, starting at 4 on the CW. Kyle Larson will be driving the 17 for Hendrick in that one. And Cup has the Straight Talk Wireless 400 at 3 p.m. on Sunday on FS1. We had mentioned it with Josh during the interview. Miami moved to earlier in the season because it's rumored to be possibly hosting the championship in 2026. So catch the action on TV or feel the thrill live in person. Secure your NASCAR seat today at NASCAR.com and feel the excitement. Let's make some picks. Picking the Tires brought to you by DraftKings. When it comes to college basketball and March Mania, one thing is for sure, nothing's for sure. Upsets, buzzer beaters, Cinderellas, top seeds going home early, it's all going to happen. Bet the unexpected every upset every day with DraftKings Sportsbook with live betting, exclusive content, promos, and parlays. DraftKings is the ultimate college basketball destination for March. Ready to make your first bet? Check out the matchups, pick a team, and that's that simple. First time, here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Bet the unexpected with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the Sportsbook app and use code Rubbin. That's code Rubbin for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Alrighty, boys. I don't have really that strong of a feeling. I was looking through some of the line, and I'm feeling a little bit chalky unless you change my mind. To anybody who wants to go first to tell me how they're feeling about going down to Miami this weekend, just fire away. Who do we like this week, fellas?
I don't mind.
Why don't
I
you
mean,
go first?
decently chalky, but I found a way to make it a little less chalky. So I like Larson. I think Larson's pretty dominant. He's going to get a lot of runs on this track, and so I'm going to take him plus 400 and then parlay it with Kyle Busch top 10. So it's just a little like Kyle Busch is minus 120 for a top 10, but it'll make the parlay plus 816.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm counting on Kyle Busch finishing in that top 10, and it feels like I'm getting Kyle Larson to win at plus 800 instead of plus 400. And that's all I got. Keeping it simple.
Okay.
I've got 2 picks for this weekend. I'll go next. I got Justin Allgaier on Saturday. I think he's been running great this year. He should have won last week. He ended up winning this week, despite me not watching the race. And he was dominant, as you said, Large. He led 100 laps.
Yeah.
So I think he's been in a great run. He's been in a great groove, and I could see him doing it again this weekend at Homestead. And I like him. His price is 9-1, so I feel like that's a great number for a guy that's a veteran and familiar with winning and been in the process of running great early this season. And then on the Cup side, I'm also taking a guy who's 9-1. It's Christopher Bell. I think that's a fair price for a guy that's been dominant. And, despite losing, I can't believe I'm saying losing, but he did not win this past weekend.
Right.
I think it's only a matter of time before he gets back to victory lane. And there's 4 drivers ahead of him on DraftKings right now that are low, kind of chalky odds. And seeing how last week went when I thought Larson was as safe as a bet as you could make, especially given the odds, it went south. So I'm going to go with a little bit of more of a long shot this weekend. And Christopher Bell at 9-1, I feel like is a very fair price on DraftKings. So give me Christopher Bell.
I like it.
Yeah, Spider's got me. I just Christopher Bell. He's won too much. I feel like he's won 3 out of the first whatever. Like I can't do that. But I am gonna double down on my Reddick pick from last week. I really like him in Homestead, and then also Denny. I know Vegas, the race didn't go well for him, but he just got a new sponsor. Just won $300,000 on slot machines and set his yard on fire. So I feel like if there was ever a week I was going to put money on Denny Hamlin, it would be this week.
So you have Reddick.
Reddick just outright to win it, and then Denny's kind of my backup.
Okay.
So
Reddick,
I'm gonna take it.
Yeah. What did he do? How did he set his backyard on fire?
Well, I think it was on purpose, but he turned it into a nice insurance ad or something. I'm pretty sure.
Nice. My chalky pick is going to be Byron to win, 650 plus 650 for Byron, and then I'm going to stick with Barry kind of and take him as top Ford at plus 800. So over Joey and Ryan Blaney, who's actually minus money to be the top Ford. So Blaney, overwhelming favorite there. I was going to take Logano to win, and now I'm taking Barry as top Ford. Wow, I'm all over the fucking map. All right, so I'm going to take Barry as top Ford, and I'm going to take William Byron for the win. Those are my only two bets I'm throwing in this week. Might change as we get closer to the race time, but that's it. Full slate of it.
Love it.
Does anyone believe that Kyle Larson is going to win all three?
Honestly, I've seen
kind of.
people saying that online on social media, but I don't think so. I mean, we were talking about how hard it is for Christopher Bell to win 3 in a row. I would say it's probably even harder for a guy to win on 3 different levels in consecutive days in the same weekend. I don't know your guys' temperature on that, but I do have one other thing that I wanted to say.
Hold on a sec. I'm going to throw one more bet in too, because as you're saying that, I wanted to throw in Ross Chastain to win in trucks.
I like that.
1,000. So he seems like one of those disruptor guys while everyone's looking for something to happen. Like
Yeah.
remember when he won in Phoenix a couple of years ago. So yeah, I'm going to take Ross Chastain in trucks at plus 1,000. Sorry about that, Spider. I would have forgot.
No worries. In the name of DraftKings Pick 6 app is one of the best you'll find. New customers can wager just $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Really fun app, and you can pick finishing position over under, as well as fantasy points and stuff like that. So if you get 6 of them right, you can win up to 15x your money. If you get 5 of them right, you double your money. So it's a fun little app I've been playing this year. And like I said, all you got to do is wager $5 on your first ever entry, and you're going to get $50 in credits for the DraftKings Pick 6 app. So I'll be continuing to post Pick 6 lineups as we move forward into this season. So
that's what I need to do.
It's a fun,
instead of round robining like the entire top 10.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
That's probably a way more profitable way of doing what I'd try to do.
It's a fun little app, and I've just been wagering $10 to win 150, or and that's all from the credits I got for just using the app for the first time. So guys, if you want to take a little bit more something untraditional, as opposed to like some props you won't see on the sports book, i.e. finishing position or fantasy points accrued in any given race, check out the Pick 6 app by DraftKings and tell them Spider sent you. You don't need to put in a code or anything, but
put in code Spider.
No, tweet at me your lineup and I will retweet it.
Fail,
but yeah, so I got the Pick 6. I got Justin Allgaier in Xfinity, and I got Christopher Bell in Cup. Both are currently 9-1, and the Pick 6 is potentially 15-1. So.
I guarantee one of us will win this week. One of our picks.
And if not, what will happen? We didn't
talk
talk about.
Just don't make. I don't do the shave my head bets like you.
Yeah, I was gonna say we didn't talk about that. So
he didn't. Yeah, he didn't finish.
John Hunter Nemechek and I had a little gentleman's bet that if he finished within the top 10, I would have to shave my head, because he replied to my Instagram story of me in the barber's chair. And if he did not, which he did not, he has to send me a fire suit. So P20 finish for John Hunter. I'm running out of wall space for these fire suits, but we'll make room for it. So John Hunter, I'm going to DM you my address, and we'll go from there, my dog.
John Hunter, 15th in points. Season ends today. He's a playoff driver.
Yeah.
So good for him. Alrighty, so that's it. And then we're still in the works with the iRacing stuff that you and Moon have been trying to put together. Anything you talk about there?
No, I think exciting. I'm not going to spoil all of it, but it sounds like we might have some driver participation, as I've been informed of today. And then, so that'll be coming after March Madness. We're going to hopefully get like some sort of league or even recurring racing going on in a Barstool format on iRacing. And then also internally here at Barstool, I'm getting my Nintendo Switch back. So expect to see some Mario Kart streams from the studio here as I take on some of my coworkers. So that should be fun. And maybe we can do even more gentlemen's bets like I did with John Hunter, although I don't know what my coworkers have to offer. But that sounded like a shot at them. I love them immensely, but my point is they don't have fire suits like I do, at least. So, yeah, that's pretty much what's coming up. Large, what do you got to promo?
Nothing. Well, you got to try this. Hits today. This week's episode was with Frank the Tank. So Fights was great last week. Stu before that. It's been a nice little run so far.
Frank the Tank, wow.
Yeah, little Frank the Tank. So that's gonna be cool.
Frank the Tank hates progressive.
Does he?
Does he?
Yeah.
Why?
He like loses mind when Flo comes on the TV.
Oh, does he hate her?
Yeah, which I get it. I'm in the same boat. Flo kind of pisses me off. But yeah, he's very anti-progressive.
So he probably won't be rooting for Denny Hamlin anymore. But that sounds like a really interesting pod, Large. You and Frank's a guy that can talk at length about his food and preferences.
He's one of the OG food guys here outside of doing the pizza thing.
Yeah.
He's been doing those like raw dogging thing for fucking ever. And obviously,
have you ever seen the video of him trying hummus for the first time?
No.
Oh man.
You've never seen that video?
I've never seen it.
My favorite. My God. It's my favorite piece of content that exists from this company.
So we're taping on Wednesday. I'm taping that tomorrow to also drop on Friday. So I'll look it up. Is there anything else I need to look up from? I'm not familiar with a lot of his.
You ever seen the one where he ate the piece of paper?
No.
He said it was something like he made a prediction that the U.S. wouldn't qualify for the World Cup, and he wrote it on a sheet of paper. And then they ended up qualifying, and he just ate it to
really?
A live stream of like 2 people. Just ate an entire sheet of paper.
He's the best. We got to get him to another race. All right, so that's it for Rubbin is Racing. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.